All right, we just had a deal, Rain. We're going to talk about Ranger Suarez in a little while. Ranger Suarez to the Red Sox, but we're going to start with Kyle Tucker, the number one free agent, and what is going on with him right now. We know the Mets have made a $50 million a year offer. Don't know how many years exactly, other than it's a short-term offer, probably 3 years, maybe 4 years. I assume that's short term. Anything beyond that will not count as short term. So Mets are obviously giving it a go. I've suggested maybe not the best fit for the Mets. Great player, absolutely. I mean, one of five guys with a 4+ WAR over the last 5 years. Um, so obviously he's a great player, but they already have a left-handed hitting right fielder who is making $50 million. So they'll be the only team who's spending $100 million on one team. All right, I'm going to take some chats in a second. I'm going to write them down, make sure to get them all. But certainly the other two teams appear to be the Jays and the Dodgers. I don't think anyone else is going to get them. I hear the Yankees are on the periphery. When I'm told some teams are on the periphery, that means they are not getting him. So Yankees are a long shot. Certainly should be the Jays, who've been in there for 2 months. Dodgers are always lurking. Around the hoop, as they say, looking for a rebound. Might get him. Obviously, it worked with Diaz. And the Mets, who we said were at $50 million. All right. What's next for the Red Sox? I'm going to get to that in a little while. Bellinger and the Yankees, we're going to get to that in a while. What's the news on Kyle Tucker and the Mets? I'm going to say this. I think it's possible that a deal could go down sometime this week on Kyle Tucker. Certainly, if a $50 million offer is out there, either he's got to take that offer or find something better and quick. That's a pretty good offer. So, I mean, obviously, it would help the Mets immensely. The fans are very excited about it. I just think it's kind of a repeat of what they have. Wouldn't they have been better with just Alonso and Diaz at $51 million a year instead of Tucker for 50? Obviously, he's a great player. Obviously, it helps the Mets. And we're going to talk about teams trying to avoid disaster. The Mets might make an appearance there. All right, very good. Thank you very much for the nice compliment. I appreciate that, Dawn. Yankees going to feel like getting anyone. Yeah, eventually they will, whether it's Bellinger or somebody else. And I will say this, and we're going to get to Suarez in a second. Bichette to the Phillies. I mean, that's the one that looks likely, but you never know. We thought Bregman to Boston looked likely, didn't come to fruition. Tucker to the Dodgers, short deal, high pay. Look, a guy is not going to turn down the Dodgers easily. If the Dodgers are in there at a competitive offer, we can't be surprised if he picks LA. We really can't. I feel at this moment, if I were going to pick an order, I'm going to say Mets because I know they've got a $50 million a year offer out there. I'll say Dodgers next, although they do seem to be in on Bellinger too. May take a rebound over there with Bellinger. So, and then I would say Jay's third. I mean, the only reason I'm saying Jay's third, even they got the long-term deal, it's been going on 2 months. If he really wanted to go to the Jays, wouldn't he have done it? Just supposition. I don't know. Giants and Horner. I saw that report from Jeff Passan. Absolute possibility. I think the Cubs will probably stick with Horner. They're going to hear from their players. Nobody wants Horner to go if you're a Chicago Cub player. I got a text from a Cubs player. You can't trade him. He's the lifeblood of the team. So I think that it's not that likely he's going to get traded, but he might. Fromber to the Mets, question mark. Well, they're really going to blow through the budget if they get Fromber too. We shall see about that. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen with Framber. We really don't. He's an outstanding pitcher. Their comp was Max Fried. I get it. Looking at the stats, they're very, very close. I don't blame them at all. Right now, he doesn't have a job. That's obvious. Sox out on Bichette after Suarez. I think it's unlikely at this point. I think that they will probably get another infielder, probably a right-handed bat. Could be by trade. We'll see. I'm going to get into all the Red Sox stuff in a second after I wrap up Tucker. So my order right now with Tucker would be Mets, Dodgers, Jays, and I'm going to say field. It's 100-1 for the field. Next week, if he signs with somebody else, come back to me and tell me the 100-1 shot came in. It's possible. If Skubal and the Tigers, all right. Yeah, I mean, if that goes to a hearing, that is real shame. And I don't know how he's going to handle it if he doesn't win that. Obviously, it's a big gap, 19 million versus 32 million. It's a big gap. I hope they settle somewhere in the middle. I mean, he certainly should be above David Price. I don't think there's any question. 1975, and Price had one Cy Young. Skubal has two, and that was 9 years ago. Since then, we've had all sorts of signings for pitchers that are very, very high, right? I mean, we've had Wheeler, we've had Scherzer, we've had Verlander, and Cole, and so many others. And look, Clayton Kershaw signed in his fifth year, a 7-year deal at 30 million a year, over 30 million a year. So I don't know. I mean, anything can happen in arbitration. 32 million is high, but boy, 19 million is low. All right, what's the next move for Philly? Well, we're going to talk about Bichette. We're going to talk all about that in a little while. If Cone wants Tucker, yeah, I get it. Cone's got the advantage, and it does feel like Cone is the guy driving that bus. I think that is fair to say. Mets and Ellinger look like somebody said. I think that's not too likely. I really don't see that. And we're going to get into the Yankee pursuits, and I'll talk about all that's going on with Bellinger at that point. All right. The Cubs get an outfielder. Would not rule that out. All right, let's go on and I'm going to get a little in the Cubs right now because I'm talking about the Red Sox. All right, the Red Sox signed the big deal of today, at least 130 million, 5 years for Ranger Suarez, outstanding pitcher. Not a ton of innings, so there's less mileage on him. That could be a plus. It's a double-edged sword. He's been a very, very good pitcher for the Phillies. Never felt like he was going back there. Their pitching is not their issue right now. They're looking at Bichette and some others. And Ranger Suarez, the thing about him is he's an outstanding pitcher in October, right? 148 ERA in October, third best this decade behind Mariano Rivera and Steven Strasburg. Third best. That's pretty good. That's a nice play there by Ranger Suarez for those watching. But an excellent deal for the Red Sox. They added Sonny Gray earlier. They have obviously an ace in Crochet. They added Oviedo from the Pirates. They've picked up 3 starters. And right now, that is a good way to have spent the money that was going to go to Bregman. I think they were surprised they didn't get Bregman. They offered 165. It was a little more deferred than the Cubs offer of 175. So it was a little bit lower offer, more deferred, at least a longer wait. Also, they didn't give a full no trade. So they still thought they'd get Bregman. They see him as the leader in the clubhouse, and it was a blow not to get him, but they bounced back quickly. They pivoted, as they say, and Ranger Suarez gives the Red Sox a top 5, certainly. Rotation in baseball. I don't think they're done. They could certainly live with Romy Gonzalez and Marcelo Meyer as their infielders. I think they're going to look at a right-handed bat. Certainly they'd look at Horner. There's a potential match there, right? The Cubs have extra outfielders. They could trade an outfielder potentially for Horner. The only reason the Cubs are thinking about this is that right now, well, they've got an extra infielder, right? Because Shaw has been displaced by Bregman, might go to second. But I think the players want Horner to stay, and I think eventually they'll probably listen to the players. But they are going to listen to other teams too. The Giants' name is out there. There are probably several teams interested in Horner, maybe the Mariners. Certainly the Red Sox would be interested in Horner, and they do prefer a righty bat. So they could look at Alec Bohm from Philly. Potentially, that could make sense, particularly if Philly gets a Bichette. Eugenio Suarez is still out there on the market. Bichette for the Red Sox, I think that's unlikely at this point. They spent 130 million on Suarez. They've added Sonny Gray. Not going to pay the full 35 million there, but they've added some money there. So I don't think Bichette is that likely, but they've got other potential candidates there. Bregman, it's a surprise to everybody that he didn't end up going back, but he got a better offer from the Cubs. Good for the Cubs. They offered 120 last year. This year it's 175. Deferrals, not heavy deferrals, but some deferrals. Got the full no trade. He looks excited. He's already in the Blackhawk uniform. Very, very big week for the Cubs and the Bears and all of Chicago. Pirates and Eugenio Suarez shot there. Suarez, I think the Mariners make the most sense for Eugenio Suarez still. The Pirates, I've heard a little bit of that. I don't think it's that likely. And there we go. Any possibility Gino goes back to Seattle? I think you got it right on the head right there. We got to give you credit there. I think that is the probable answer there. All right. Let's get on to the next category. We've got covered Tucker, we've covered Suarez, we've covered Bregman, Skubal, and Peralta the latest. I mean, right now, everybody thinks that Skubal's going to cost a ton, and he should cost a ton. He's the best pitcher in baseball. Whether they gave him a $19 million offer or not, he's the best. There's no way around it. Look at that, 101. I think he was throwing 101 at the end of a game at some point last year. Just incredible. A.J. Hinch has done a nice job with him. He doesn't throw over 110 pitches a game. A left-hander, outstanding personality, definitely a winner. I think that is an excellent pitcher. And I just don't see them trading him. Some people do. I don't know. I mean, to me, Detroit made the playoffs the last 2 years with him, winning two-thirds of his starts. They won only half the starts of the other pitchers, so I don't see him trading. Peralta, I think he's likely to get traded. I do believe that Peralta will probably be traded. 8 million is all he makes. That's not onerous. They can certainly afford that. The issue is, can they sign him long term? He's asked for an extension going back 2 years, and he's asked for one consistently, and Milwaukee is not able to do it, or does, I mean, it's a small market. He's a number one pitcher. He's probably a 25 or $30 million a year pitcher. Milwaukee, they don't extend guys. They end up trading them. They traded Burns. They will likely trade Peralta. The teams I've heard are the Yankees, the Mets, the Giants, the Dodgers, and the Braves. I'm sure there are others. I'm sure they're a small market. He only makes 8 million. Any team could use him. He would be an enormous benefit to any team. That said, nobody's going to sign him right away. Might be a little bit of benefit if you think you can sign him as a free agent, to have him for a year and show him how great things are wherever he goes. But it's not that huge a benefit that I think. The benefit is having a pitcher who's probably a $60 million pitcher for 1 year, even if they're only going to pay him either 19 or $32 million. So anyway, Astros and Red Sox. Is that a trade you're thinking of? I don't know. The Red Sox do have extra pitching. I think the Astros getting Imai. I think they're probably okay on the pitching front. I do feel like the Red Sox do have an extra outfielder they could trade potentially, and they have significant pitching. If they can trade for an infielder, I guess maybe you're referring to Paredes. I think that's not a bad thought. I'll write that down. I like that. Paredes certainly would fit Fenway. Pull hitter, deep pull hitter, green monster. That could work. So I still think Boston will probably trade for a righty bat. And like I said, I think Horner's probably staying. Bohm's a possibility. Paredes, that does make sense. I wish I talked to you earlier. That was a good one. All right, let's go. Did the Yankees get Ryan Weathers for depth so they can trade their farm for an elite starting pitcher? No, I don't know that that's the case. The Yankees are in on Peralta. They've traded 4 guys to get Weathers, but they'll have to trade more guys beyond those 4 to get Skubal, whether it be Skubal, Peralta, Gore. And I know they have been talking about Peralta and Gore. When the Yankees called about Skubal, it sounded to them like it was going to cost half their team, probably Rice and many other young players who are really good. Maybe Dominguez, who wasn't great last year, but still has potential. He's the best pitcher in the game. It's a difficult choice for Detroit. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Look, Boston traded Betts with a year to go. It was a disaster. The Angels held on to Ohtani with a year to go. That was a disaster. So it's a tough choice that Detroit makes, but I kind of think the fact that they made the playoffs the last 2 years and have another playoff team, I kind of think they probably hold on to Skubal, and I don't blame them if they do and just take the draft choice at the end, because they're a threat. They're a good team. They've made a good bullpen. Their pitching is above average. I like their young players. They've got a lot of good young prospects. I mean, if they do trade them and get more great prospects, they may set themselves up for the future. But at this point, I'm going to say not that likely they trade him. Peralta, the opposite. I think he probably is traded. Pirates or anything else. I think the Pirates are going to add some offense, more offense, whether it's Suarez or somebody else. I think that they probably will. Will Bo Bichette land with the Yankees? I'm going to bet on Philly at this moment. Not too much though. I mean, he's got several teams potentially out there. I don't think it's going to be Boston now. Certainly could be Toronto, could be the Dodgers. Those are most of the teams. I think Seattle, maybe. They haven't really dived in on that one yet. That's probably a little bit rich for their taste, but I kind of think Philly. And we're going to get to Bo Bichette. Bellinger update, please. We're going to get into that in Yankee pursuits. Do you think the Orioles break the bank for another big? I mean, at this point, Framber Valdez doesn't have a job. We know that he's connected to the Orioles and the Mets. They both met with him at the GM meetings. I do think that there's a decent chance that he ends up with either Baltimore or the Mets, but there are several other teams that he could help as well. One thing I will mention is the Yankees did check in on both Suarez and on Framber Valdez fairly recently. So does that mean the Yankees are getting Framber Valdez? I don't think so, because that was before they made the trade for Ryan Weathers. They've kind of bulked up their rotation now, added the depth. And that was the more likely scenario for them anyway, to get that depth piece. They did check in on Framber Valdez, but not of big value, because I just don't see them going there. Framber Valdez, I do believe, is a great pitcher. He's been great in the postseason. I know he's a ground ball pitcher, but he gets outs, and his record is very similar to Max Fried. So Max Fried did all right. Jon Heyman, Yankees, very funny. No $1 billion contract for me. Zach Gallen, Yankees. You know what? Zach Gallen's an East Coast guy. He's from New Jersey. I don't know about the Yankees. The Mets need pitching. I think the Mets might be more likely for Zach Gallen. Could he go back to the D-backs? That's a possibility as well. He's got that QO, so maybe the D-backs make sense for Zach Gallen. All right, let's get into Bo Bichette now. Why do you love? I mean, the guy hit over the only player in the major leagues who hit over 300 on changeups and splits. That's one. On breaking balls, that's curves and sliders. Two, and on fastballs. Over 300 on all three. He was the only one. 311 overall. Now, obviously, Judge hit a little bit higher, but 311 these days, that's probably like a 340. That 311 is the new 340, I think. He's an outstanding hitter. He met with Philly. Everybody says it went very well. He's got the connection there with Mattingly. Certainly, the ballpark fits him. The roster's excellent. And he lives in St. Pete, so that's pretty close to Clearwater. I'm sure in his mind, that's got to be, if not his top choice, one of his top choices. I mean, he's got to love the Phillies. That is a first-class organization. I do believe that there is a possibility. Now, things are going to have to move for that to happen. They've got moving parts, and things will have to happen, right? I mean, Alec Boehm is being paid $10.2 million. They'll have to find a taker for him. I think it can be done. I think that's about what he's worth. I think he's worth that or even more. So that's one thing that would have to happen. I don't think Castellanos is related. They're not going to get much for him, unfortunately. People look at him as a DH right now. Not a big value there, although I'd take a flyer on him. I'm not sure why nobody has yet. The other thing is, would they have to go for a lesser catcher than JT Realmuto? They're in a stare down there. They've offered Realmuto a 3-year deal. Obviously, it's not enough at this point for him. Is it 12 million? Are they at 15 million a year? I'm not sure, but certainly they are apart on the dollars. I don't think he's looking at more than 3 years, but they've offered 3, so they're not, they're giving it a shot. But if he doesn't take it, there aren't a lot of catchers out there on the market. There's Caratini's out there. There's Gary Sanchez. There's a handful of catchers, but not as good as JT Realmuto. Does that mean they can't sign Realmuto and Bichette? That I'm not sure of. Certainly, if they don't sign Realmuto, that enhances their chances to sign Bo Bichette, who just got married, and as I reported in the New York Post, at his wedding, he was getting texts from Philly personnel. So there is some level of excitement there with the Phillies and Bichette. Somebody says Dodger news. Yeah, Bichette's one of the players potentially the Dodgers are looking at, but they check in on everybody. So certainly could be Dodgers, could be Yankees, could be his old Jays team. But, we're talking a lot about Bo and Philly for a reason. They had a meeting. It went well. There are a lot of connections there. Makes a lot of sense. Roman Anthony underutilized as a DH. Well, they want to keep him healthy. They got a ton of outfielders. He'll do some DHing. Nothing wrong with that. So anyway, Bo Bichette, I think Philly is looking pretty good. Wouldn't guarantee it. I would say that it does make sense if they can trade Bohm, and probably if they don't bring back a Realmuto. All right, let's talk a little bit Yankee pursuits. Category number 5, and that is Bellinger. That's the obvious one. We all know at this point they've offered 5 and about $155 million. They're willing to go up on that. They're going to do no deferreds. I think they'll do not just 1, but probably 2 opt-outs. And I think the question is, can they work within this framework? They don't want to go beyond 5 years. Obviously, 7 years was the ask at the beginning. Could they compromise at 6? I'm not going to rule it out. It's possible. Or more likely, I would say, could they go up from the 31 million? I think they can, and I think it makes sense. He did play superbly there. He fit Yankee Stadium. I think he loved it there. He only says that he wants to play for a winner. So that said, I think his old Dodgers team is probably the other team that makes sense. I mean, we know the Cubs checked in, but they've now signed Bregman. I don't think they're signing another big free agent. It could be Toronto if they don't get Tucker, if they don't get Bichette, potentially that could make sense for Bellinger. Giants had also checked in. That looks like a shaky one to me. I don't think that's that likely that this guy who's played with the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Yankees now goes to the Giants. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Big market team. They look pretty good to me, but he was a Dodger. He wants to make sure he's on a winning team. I do believe the Dodgers do have interest in him. I think Yankees and Belly get it done. Yeah, I think there's a decent chance of it. I'm not going to say I think they get it done, but I think there is a decent chance of it. They've got some work to do. I think there's any question about that. Sleeper starting pitchers that might get traded. Well, we saw Boz was a kind of a sleeper, I think, but certainly Gore is not a name that's been out there a ton lately, at least. But I could see him getting traded. Yeah, I mean, we're focused right now on Peralta because he's the number one pitcher, top five Cy Young. I think he was fourth in the Cy Young. And it does feel like Milwaukee is going to trade him. I do think so. And I know the fans are on the Yankees. I get it. They had a team that won 94 games last year, but in the end didn't get it done like the Yankee teams used to want to get it done, which is winning the World Series. Didn't happen. Skeens to Yankees a chance? Not yet. No, that's not happening. They tried. They certainly tried. Skeens isn't going anywhere. Right now, Pittsburgh's trying to build up their team and improve their team and impress him and maybe add a year so that he doesn't leave after 6 years and they make it after 7 years. I think that's their goal. I don't know that that's going to happen. Certainly, he's from California. There are some New York ties. His girlfriend looked for a home in Manhattan, but the thing that was really interesting about his girlfriend looking for a home in Manhattan is that the home she was looking for was the old Babe Ruth home up on the Upper West Side. I mean, if I'm the Yankees, and I think they did take it as a hint, like, hey, maybe this guy likes the Yankees and wouldn't mind coming here. And certainly a lot of players do, but people around him think that, he spends his time in the South. He went to LSU. The Dodgers, the Dodgers are a team that would be interest to him. I don't think there's any question about that. What would Skeens cost anyone? A ton. I mean, look, if Skubal with 1 year to go is going to cost a ton, Skeens is going to cost the whole farm system. I mean, there's no way around that. So I'm glad you asked that Skeens question. Always makes it interesting. The Yankees have mostly done things around the edges so far. I don't think they're done yet. They did call on Suarez. They called on Framber, Valdez. So, you never know what could possibly happen. Red Sox bat. All right, let me go over that again. I think a trade is probably more likely. I know they just signed a free agent. That people say they're not good at free agency. They just got Ranger Suarez. I do think they are better at trades, and that's more likely for them. They're a little excess in the outfield, got an extra pitcher, and they can make a trade. Certainly, a Bohm is a possibility there because they have a lot of right-handed bat, right? So Bohm's a possibility. Horner, a possibility, though I think Cubs will ultimately be convinced by their players to keep him. They could go for a free agent like Eugenio Suarez or Bichette potentially. And I'm glad that somebody brought up Houston. Paredes, pull hitter, that would make sense. I mean, right now you've got Marcelo Meyer, you've got Romy Gonzalez. Certainly, Marcelo Meyer is a big-time prospect, so I think they wouldn't mind putting him in there as a starter. Romy, they probably would prefer as a utility guy. So I do think they will probably trade for a bat, and it'll be right-handed. Look, Brendan Donovan is out there, and what an outstanding player he is. But he is left-handed, so he may not be a fit for the Red Sox. I mean, Katie Wu reported San Francisco and Seattle were the main teams on Brendan Donovan. Seems to be some legs there. They are looking at second base. So, I mean, they're looking at Horner too, but like I said, I don't think Horner's going anywhere. So Donovan to the Giants, I think that's a possibility. I really do. All right. What would Paredes cost? Look, he was only one out of three pieces for Tucker. Now, Tucker's obviously a big-time star, but I think that Jaron Duran would be too much for him. I mean, they got outfielders who are young and really good, and some of them are too much for him, but they do have excess pitching at this point. Would Johan Oviedo go for Paredes? I don't know. They've just got Oviedo, but somebody of that ilk potentially could. They've got an extra starter now, right? So, hey, we just dreamed up a trade. Who knows? I don't know if that's going to happen. All right, let me go over the teams trying to avoid a disaster. All right, how long is David Stearns' contract? That's well-timed. 5-year deal. I don't know. Some people think it's 60 million. I don't know. I heard it was at least 10 million a year. Anyway, he is a very good executive, very smart guy. I'm really not sure what's going on right now because I think losing Diaz is a mistake. I mean, we clearly knew that he didn't really wasn't in love with having a righty slugger at first base who wasn't a great defender, and he was never going to go 5 years. So I don't think we should be shocked by that with the Alonso loss. But Diaz, that was not a good moment in Stearns' career. I mean, when he traded Hader, that was rough for the Brewers, and in this case. They shouldn't have let Diaz get away. I get you don't want to give him 5 years. Can you give him 4 years? I don't know. Anyway, team's starting to avoid a disaster. I'm going to put the Mets first, right? And one way they're doing that is going for the big fish, and that's Kyle Tucker, the number one free agent who had a 143 OPS plus last year, $50 million a year they've offered. So, I mean, obviously he's very talented. He can play left field. He hasn't really done it in a big market. He was pretty good in Chicago. He had good stats, but it wasn't exactly what they wanted. They aren't trying to bring him back. There was no clamoring to bring him back. He is an outstanding player. As I said, one of the five players with at least a 4 WAR over the past 5 years, and the other ones are all superstars, right? Ramirez, uh, Judge, Betts, and Soto, and Tucker. Those are the five. He's an outstanding, outstanding player. So I get it. I just wonder why, if you're going to spend $50 million, why not bring back Diaz and Alonso or Diaz and something else? I don't know. But if they get Tucker, obviously that's the bat that can bat behind Soto. Soto's still going to walk close to 130 times no matter who's behind him. He did last year with Alonso behind him, and it was 127. But certainly they need that middle of the order bat, and there aren't a ton out there, and they don't seem like they're really in on Bellinger. So uh, to me, it looks like Tucker could be the guy. That said, the Mets need pitching. Who's going to pitch for them? Obviously, you got McLean. Peterson's pretty good. The other ones, Minaya, not bad. Um, Let me see here. I got, all right. All right. Somebody's saying the answer could come soon on Tucker. All right. All right. Yeah, I mean, I've heard from executives that they do expect something fairly soon with Tucker. As I said, I think I said earlier, it could be by the end of the week. So that will be interesting to see what happens there. I still think they need pitching. We know they met with Framber Valdez. We know Peralta's out there. We know that Stearns has a relationship with Milwaukee. Potentially, that could be something that they could work with. I do think they need a starter. Certainly, they would hope Manayak bounces back to the form of a year ago. Senga's another guy who was really good 2 years ago. They were trying to trade him at one point. Apparently, the trades never really came to fruition. Didn't happen. Anyway, that's my number one team trying to avoid disaster, and certainly Tucker could change the equation if they were able to sign Tucker. Tucker today, possibly. I mean, I know there are people involved who expect it to happen fairly soon. As you see, Mike Puma from my New York Post says it could be very, very, very soon. All right. Not knowing which way Tucker leans, bad sign. No, I don't. Dodgers and the Jays don't know either, as far as we know, right? I can't read. All right, all right. What's the news on Bo? Well, right now we know he met with the Phillies, and that's the most logical, but certainly still out there. It could be the Jays, Yankees, depending on what happens with Bellinger, their number one choice, and the Dodgers. What do the Yankees need to do to avoid it? Thank you very much to avoid disaster. They're my number two to avoid disaster team, and I don't really think the Yankees are having a disastrous winter in any way, but I read what the fans are saying, and they're not happy with the fact that they're one big pursuit. We just bring the old gang back together. Now, did win 94 games. They weren't particularly good in the playoffs. They gave up a run and inning to the Jays. That didn't really work. That wasn't good at all. But I think they made a mistake when they gave Grisham the qualifying offer, and he's now up from 5 million to 22 million. In any case, it does give them a fallback if Bellinger does go somewhere else. If it becomes like a Bregman case and it's looking pretty good, but guess what? No, I'm going somewhere else. There's still good players out there. As I said, they've checked in on Framber. They checked in before the Red Sox got Suarez. On Suarez, they are looking around at pitching. Maybe they end up bulking up the pitching because we did say they are one of the five teams I did mention with Peralta. So if they don't get Bellinger, maybe they'll do like the Red Sox and really go for that super rotation. John, are the Mets looking at any starting pitching? Well, they better be. Absolutely. They've got to avoid disaster, and they need starting pitching to avoid disaster. Will Tucker sign today? I'm not guaranteeing that, but it does appear that there's a decent chance of that. And my number three team, I'm going to say the Reds. It's a small market team. I don't want to pick on the Reds. They did go for Schwarber, hometown hero. Who, by the way, is having a great week, a couple weeks with Indiana doing what they're doing. He was a great college player. He's been a great pro. It was worth giving it a shot. They weren't going to be able to outbid the Phillies. Nobody was. They were always going to match the highest offer, which is what they did with the Orioles anyway. So, I mean, the Reds haven't done a ton. They recently added J.J. Bleday. They're adding Pierce Johnson, but they're adding around the margins. They were a playoff team last year, as we know, tying the Mets. Unbelievably so. Give them credit. They got a great manager in Terry Francona. It does feel like the Reds need to do a little something more to avoid disaster. So they're on my list as number three behind the New York team, two New York teams. But we'll see. Maybe the Mets pull themselves out of their morass today, tomorrow, the next day. If they do get Tucker, just because I said it's not a perfect fit doesn't mean he's not a huge get for the Mets. And it will be interesting to see what does happen. This is Jon Heyman signing off for Bleacher Report. I will be back at you next week.